8-year-old Emma Thompson had always been fascinated by the bright red uniforms and tall black hats of the Royal Guards. Every time her mother Sarah showed her pictures or videos of the Guards standing perfectly still at Buckingham Palace, Emma's eyes would light up with wonder. She would spend hours drawing pictures of them, their rifles held straight, their faces serious and proud. Her bedroom walls were covered with her colorful drawings of these majestic figures. Emma had been fighting leukemia for 2 years. The little girl with curly blonde hair and bright blue eyes had shown incredible courage throughout her battle. She never complained during the painful treatments, always managing to smile for her worried parents. Her father, David, a construction worker, and her mother Sarah, a nurse, had watched their daughter fight with the strength of someone much older than her 8 years. The doctors had tried everything: chemotherapy, radiation, experimental treatments. Nothing seemed to work. The cancer kept spreading, and Emma's small body was getting weaker with each passing day. Dr. Williams, their oncologist, had recently delivered the news that no parent ever wants to hear. Emma had maybe 3 months left, possibly less. During one of their quiet evenings together, as Emma lay in her hospital bed surrounded by her drawings of Royal Guards, she looked up at her parents with those bright blue eyes that still held so much life. "Mummy, Daddy," she whispered, her voice weak but determined, "I have a wish." Sarah leaned closer, brushing Emma's hair from her face. "What is it, sweetheart?" she asked gently. Emma's face brightened as much as her tired body would allow. "I want to see the Royal Guards, the real ones. I want to watch them march and stand guard like the brave soldiers they are." She pointed to her drawings on the wall. "I've drawn them so many times, but I've never seen them for real. They're so strong and brave, just like I'm trying to be." David felt his heart break a little more. London was hundreds of miles away from their small town in Yorkshire, and Emma was too weak for such a long journey. The doctors had advised against any unnecessary travel, but looking at his daughter's hopeful face, he couldn't bring himself to say no immediately. Sarah squeezed Emma's hand gently. "That's a beautiful wish, darling. Let us talk to the doctors and see what we can do." Emma smiled, the first real smile they had seen from her in weeks. "Promise you'll try, Mummy?" she asked. "I promise we'll try our very best," Sarah replied, though she had no idea how they could possibly make this happen. That night, after Emma had fallen asleep, David and Sarah sat in the hospital corridor, both feeling overwhelmed. They had already spent their life savings on Emma's treatment. David had taken so much time off work that his boss had been understanding but firm about needing him back. The idea of traveling to London, finding accommodations, and dealing with Emma's medical needs seemed impossible. Sarah, being a nurse, understood better than most how risky it would be to take Emma so far from her medical team. Her immune system was extremely weak, and any infection could be fatal. Yet the hope in Emma's eyes when she talked about the Royal Guards was something neither parent wanted to extinguish. Dr. Williams was sympathetic but concerned when they approached him about Emma's wish. "I understand how important this is," he said carefully. "But Emma's condition is very fragile. The journey alone could put tremendous stress on her body. The crowds, the exposure to germs, the excitement, it could be dangerous." But Emma overheard their conversation. Despite her weakness, she had quietly made her way to the door. "Please, Dr. Williams," she said in her small voice. "I know I'm very sick. I know I might not get better. But this is all I want. I want to see the Guards before—" She didn't finish the sentence, but everyone understood. Dr. Williams looked at this brave little girl and felt his professional caution soften. He had seen many children in Emma's condition, but few had shown such determination and grace. "Let me make some calls," he said finally. "Maybe we can find a way to make this safer for you." Over the next few days, Dr. Williams worked with colleagues in London to arrange for Emma's care during a potential visit. Meanwhile, Sarah started a crowdfunding page online, sharing Emma's story and her wish to see the Royal Guards. She included some of Emma's drawings and a photo of her smiling despite her illness. The response was immediate and overwhelming. People from their small town and complete strangers from around the world began donating. Messages of support poured in from everywhere. A local newspaper picked up the story, and soon Emma's wish was spreading across social media. Emma watched in amazement as the donations grew. "All these people want to help me see the guards?" she asked, barely able to believe it. The kindness of strangers gave her strength she didn't know she still had. Within a week, they had raised enough money not just for the trip, but for proper medical support during their journey. A private ambulance company offered their services at cost, and a hotel near Buckingham Palace provided a free room. Even the local taxi company in their town offered free transportation to and from the hospital. But the most surprising call came on a Tuesday morning. Sarah answered the phone to hear a crisp, official voice. "Mrs. Thompson? This is Lieutenant Colonel James Mitchell from the Household Division. We understand your daughter Emma would like to see the Royal Guards. We'd very much like to meet her." Sarah nearly dropped the phone when she heard those words. Lieutenant Colonel Mitchell's voice was warm despite its military formality. "We've heard about Emma's story through our networks," he explained. "One of our sergeants has a daughter who saw the news coverage, and she insisted we had to help. The Royal Guards don't usually make special arrangements, but Emma's courage has touched all of us," the colonel continued. "We'd like to invite Emma and your family to a private ceremony, not just to watch from the crowds, but to meet our guards, personally. We want to show her what real bravery looks like, though I suspect she already knows that better than most of us." Sarah began to cry, overwhelmed by the unexpected kindness. "Are you serious? You would really do this for Emma?" she managed to ask through her tears. "Mrs. Thompson," the colonel replied, "we serve to protect people like Emma. It would be our honor to meet such a courageous young lady." When Sarah told Emma about the call, the little girl's reaction was beyond anything they could have imagined. Despite her weakness, she sat up in bed with more energy than she had shown in months. "They want to meet me? The real Royal Guards?" Her excitement was infectious, and for the first time in weeks the hospital room felt filled with joy instead of sorrow. Dr. Williams worked frantically to ensure Emma would be stable enough for the journey. He coordinated with London hospitals, arranged for portable medical equipment, and even planned to accompany them personally. "I've never seen a patient respond so positively to good news," he told David. "This hope might give her strength we didn't know she had." The preparations took 2 weeks. During this time, Emma's story continued to spread. The local primary school, which Emma had attended before becoming too sick, organized a card-making session. Every child in the school created a drawing or card. For Emma, many featuring their own versions of Royal Guards. When the teachers brought the hundreds of cards to the hospital, Emma spent hours looking through each one, amazed that so many people cared about her. The night before their departure, Emma could barely sleep. She had been practicing her curtsy, even though the colonel had assured them that such formality wasn't necessary. "I want to do everything properly," she told her mother. "The guards are so important, and I want them to know I respect them." Sarah had packed Emma's favorite stuffed bear, Mr. Buttons, along with all of her Royal Guard drawings. Emma insisted on bringing her artwork to show the real guards. "Maybe they'll like to see how I imagine them," she said hopefully. The journey to London was carefully orchestrated. The private ambulance was equipped with everything Emma might need, and Dr. Williams monitored her vital signs throughout the trip. Despite everyone's concerns, Emma seemed to grow stronger as they got closer to London. She pressed her face to the window, watching the countryside pass by, pointing out everything that excited her. "Look, Daddy, that castle," she exclaimed at one point. "Do you think Royal Guards work there too?" David smiled, seeing more animation in his daughter than he had witnessed in months. "Maybe they do, sweetheart. Maybe they do." They arrived in London on a crisp autumn morning. The hotel near Buckingham Palace had prepared a special room on the ground floor to accommodate Emma's wheelchair and medical equipment. The staff had decorated the room with Union Jack bunting and pictures of the Royal Guards, making Emma gasp with delight when she saw it. But the real surprise came that afternoon. Lieutenant Colonel Mitchell arrived at their hotel personally, dressed in his full ceremonial uniform. Emma's eyes went wide when she saw him standing in the hotel lobby, tall and impressive with his red tunic and bearskin hat tucked under his arm. "You must be Emma," he said, bending down to her level. "I'm Colonel Mitchell, and I'm here to escort you to meet my guards. They've been very excited to meet you." Emma stared at him in wonder, temporarily unable to speak. Finally, she whispered, "You're even more magnificent than in my drawings." The colonel smiled warmly. "I'd love to see those drawings, Emma. I hear you're quite the artist." Emma immediately began pulling out her pictures from her bag, showing him each one with growing confidence. The colonel studied each drawing seriously, commenting on details and asking Emma about her choices of colors and poses. "These are excellent," he said genuinely. "You've captured the pride and dignity of the guards perfectly. My men are going to be very impressed." Emma beamed with pride, sitting a little straighter in her wheelchair. As they prepared to leave for the ceremony, Emma looked up at her parents with shining eyes. "This is really happening, isn't it?" she asked. Sarah knelt beside her daughter's wheelchair and took her hands. "Yes, darling, this is really happening. You're about to meet the royal guards, and they're about to meet the bravest person any of us know." The drive to the ceremony location was filled with Emma's questions and observations. She wanted to know about the guards' training, their uniforms, their horses, and their duties. Colonel Mitchell answered each question patiently and thoroughly, clearly impressed by Emma's knowledge and interest. "You know more about the guards than some of our new recruits," he told her, making Emma giggle with delight. "Have you ever considered becoming a royal guard yourself?" Emma's face grew thoughtful. "I wish I could," she said quietly. "But I'm too sick to be a soldier. I can only be brave in my own way." The colonel's expression grew serious and respectful. "Emma," he said, "being brave in your own way is the most important kind of courage there is. My guards are brave because it's their job and their training. You're brave because it comes from your heart. That makes you the most special kind of soldier." As their car approached the location where the ceremony would take place, Emma saw something that made her gasp in amazement. There, lined up in perfect formation, were 20 royal guards in full ceremonial dress. They stood at attention in the afternoon sunlight, their red tunics brilliant, their bearskin hats tall and proud, their rifles held with precision. But this wasn't just any ceremony. As Emma would soon discover, the guards had planned something extraordinary that would exceed her wildest dreams and create a memory that would transform not just her remaining time, but her entire family's understanding of human kindness and honor. As Emma's wheelchair approached the formation of guards, she noticed something extraordinary. Each guard stood perfectly still, but she could see their eyes following her movement. These weren't just soldiers performing a duty. These were men who had chosen to be here for her. Colonel Mitchell stopped the wheelchair directly in front of the formation. "Guards," he called out in his commanding voice. "Attention for Miss Emma Thompson." The precision of their response was breathtaking. 20 rifles moved as one, 20 boots clicked together, 20 heads turned toward Emma with perfect synchronization. Emma sat speechless, her small hands gripping the arms of her wheelchair. She had imagined this moment countless times, but the reality was more magnificent than anything her young mind had conceived. The guards stood like living statues, their discipline and pride evident in every line of their posture. "Emma," Colonel Mitchell said softly, "I'd like you to meet the Grenadier Guards of Her Majesty's Guard. Gentlemen," he addressed the formation, "I'd like you to meet Miss Emma Thompson, artist, dreamer, and one of the bravest people I've ever had the honor to know." What happened next would be talked about in military circles for years to come. Sergeant Major Williams, a man with 25 years of service and countless ceremonies under his belt, stepped forward from the formation. His usually stern face was gentle as he approached Emma's wheelchair. "Miss Thompson," he said in a voice that carried both authority and warmth, "on behalf of all the guards present, we want you to know that we have heard about your courage. We've seen your beautiful drawings, and we've learned about your fight. Today, we don't just want to show you what we do. We want to show you that real courage comes in many forms." Emma found her voice at last. "Thank you," she whispered. Then louder, "Thank you so much for letting me meet you. I've dreamed about this every day." Her honesty and pure joy touched every man present. These were soldiers trained to show no emotion, yet several had to blink back tears. Sergeant Major Williams knelt beside Emma's wheelchair, bringing himself to her eye level. "Emma, we've prepared something special for you. But first, we have a question. We understand you've been drawing Royal Guards for quite some time. Would you be willing to be our artist today? We'd like you to judge our formation and tell us if we're doing it right." Emma's eyes widened with delight and responsibility. She took the task seriously, looking carefully at each guard, checking their posture, their alignment, the angle of their rifles. The guards remained perfectly still as she conducted her inspection, but their respect for this small girl was evident in their bearing. "You're all perfect," she announced finally. "Better than perfect. You're exactly like I always imagined, but more real and more wonderful." The guards, despite their training, couldn't help but smile at her assessment. But the ceremony was just beginning. Colonel Mitchell signaled to someone behind Emma, and she heard the clip-clop of hooves on pavement. She turned to see a magnificent black horse approaching, led by a guard in mounted regiment uniform. The horse was draped in ceremonial regalia, its bridle polished to perfection. "Emma," the colonel said, "this is Majesty, one of our ceremonial horses. If you're feeling up to it, and if your parents agree, Majesty would be honored to give you a ride." Emma looked at her parents with pleading eyes. Dr. Williams checked her quickly and nodded his approval. With careful assistance, Emma was lifted onto Majesty's back, secured safely with special straps they had prepared. As the horse began a slow, gentle walk around the formation of guards, Emma felt like she was floating. She had never been on a horse before, and the gentle swaying motion, combined with the sight of the guards maintaining their perfect formation around her, made her feel like a princess in a fairy tale. The guards began a slow march, maintaining their formation as Majesty carried Emma in a circle around them. It was unprecedented. Guards in ceremonial formation don't typically march for private citizens. But Emma wasn't just any citizen. She was a little girl who had touched their hearts with her courage and her dreams. As the ceremony continued, Emma noticed that each guard had something pinned to his tunic that wasn't part of the standard uniform. When Majesty brought her closer, she could see they were her drawings. Each guard was wearing one of her Royal Guard pictures, carefully laminated and pinned with pride to their ceremonial dress. "You're wearing my drawings," she exclaimed, with joy. Sergeant Major Williams smiled broadly. "We are indeed, Miss Emma. Each of us chose one of your pictures to wear today. They show us how we look through the eyes of someone who truly understands what we represent: courage, honor, and service." The impact of seeing her artwork displayed with such respect on the uniforms of real Royal Guards was overwhelming for Emma. These weren't just polite gestures. These men genuinely valued her artistic interpretation of their role. Her drawings, created from a hospital bed during her darkest hours, were being honored by the very people who had inspired them. After her ride, Emma was gently helped down, from Majesty and back into her wheelchair. But the surprises weren't over. Colonel Mitchell approached with a beautifully carved wooden box. "Emma," he said formally, "by the authority vested in me by the Household Division, I hereby name you an honorary member of the Grenadier Guards." He opened the box to reveal a miniature set of guard insignia, perfectly crafted and sized for a child. There was a small bearskin hat, a red tunic with proper buttons and braiding, and even tiny medals. "These are yours to keep," he said. "You've earned them through your courage and your dedication to understanding what we represent." Emma's parents watched in amazement as their daughter was dressed in her honorary uniform. The transformation was remarkable. Despite her illness, despite her weakness, Emma carried herself with the dignity and pride of a true guard. She stood as straight as her condition allowed, her small chin lifted with military bearing. The ceremony concluded. With all 20 guards saluting Emma in perfect unison, she returned the salute with the seriousness it deserved, her small hand pressed to the brim of her new bearskin hat. The image of this brave little girl in her honorary uniform, surrounded by the elite guards she had dreamed of meeting, was one that would stay with everyone present for the rest of their lives. As they prepared to leave, Sergeant Major Williams approached Emma one final time. "Miss Emma," he said quietly, "I want you to know something important. We've served in many ceremonies, met many important people, stood guard for royalty and heads of state. But today, standing here with you has been one of the greatest honors of our military careers. You've reminded us why we serve, to protect courage like yours." The days following the ceremony brought changes to Emma that amazed everyone who knew her. Back in their London hotel, she wore her honorary guard uniform every day, carrying herself with a new sense of purpose and dignity. The physical transformation was subtle but noticeable. She sat straighter, spoke with more confidence, and seemed to have found a reservoir of strength that had been hidden beneath her illness. Dr. Williams was astounded by her vital signs. "I've never seen anything like this," he told her parents privately. "Her white blood cell count is still critically low and the cancer hasn't changed, but her overall condition has stabilized in a way that's medically unusual. Sometimes the mind and spirit can influence the body in ways we don't fully understand." Emma spent her time in London writing thank you letters to each of the guards who had participated in her ceremony. Her handwriting was shaky due to her condition, but each letter was filled with specific memories and personal observations about individual guards. She remembered details about their uniforms, their expressions, and their kindness that impressed even the colonel when he received copies. "Dear Sergeant Major Williams," one letter began, "thank you for kneeling down to talk to me. Most adults stand up tall when they talk to children, but you made yourself small so I could feel big. That's what real soldiers do. They make other people feel strong and important." The guards were so moved by her letters that they began writing back, creating an unprecedented correspondence between a dying child and some of Britain's most elite soldiers. Each letter from the guards contained stories about their training, their duties, and their lives, but also reflections on courage, honor, and what they had learned from meeting Emma. Guard Private Johnson wrote, "Dear Honorary Guard Emma, yesterday, during our changing of the guard ceremony, I thought about what you said about us being brave because we choose to serve others. It made me stand a little straighter and feel more proud of my uniform. Thank you for reminding me why I became a guard." The story of Emma's ceremony had begun to spread beyond the military community. British newspapers picked up the story, and soon Emma's face was on front pages across the country. The headline in the Daily Mail read, "The bravest guard of all, 8-year-old's courage inspires elite regiment." But Emma remained remarkably unaffected by the attention. When reporters wanted to interview her, she insisted on wearing her guard uniform and speaking about the soldiers rather than herself. "The guards are the real heroes," she told a BBC reporter. "I just have cancer. They protect everyone every day. That's much more important than being sick." The media attention brought an unexpected visitor to their hotel. Sir Geoffrey Hartwell, a retired general and now Lord Lieutenant, arrived one evening with a special request. "Miss Emma," he said after introducing himself, "I've been following your story, and I have something rather extraordinary to propose." He explained that Buckingham Palace had taken note of Emma's story and her honorary membership in the Guards. "Her Majesty would like to meet you, if you're feeling well enough. The Queen has heard about your courage and your love for her guards, and she'd be honored to receive you at the palace." Emma's parents were overwhelmed. Meeting the royal guards had been Emma's ultimate dream, but an audience with the Queen herself was beyond anything they had imagined possible. Emma, however, took the news with the composure she had developed since receiving her honorary uniform. "Will I be able to wear my guard uniform when I meet Her Majesty?" she asked seriously. "I think she would expect her honorary guard to be properly dressed." Sir Geoffrey smiled warmly. "I think Her Majesty would be disappointed if you wore anything else." The royal audience was scheduled for the following week, giving Emma time to prepare. She practiced her curtsy repeatedly, despite her weakness, determined to show proper respect. She also worked on a special drawing, her most detailed and careful artwork yet, depicting the Queen surrounded by her guards, with Emma herself standing among them in her honorary uniform. During their remaining days in London, the guards made Emma an unofficial part of their daily routine. Each morning, Sergeant Major Williams would call the hotel to check on Honorary Guard Thompsons. condition, and readiness for duty. Emma would give him a formal report on her health and spirits, using military terminology she had learned from her correspondence with the guards. The bond between Emma and the guards had become something extraordinary. These elite soldiers, trained to show no emotion and maintain perfect discipline, had found themselves genuinely attached to this brave little girl. Several guards began visiting her at the hotel during their off-duty hours, still wearing their uniforms because Emma loved to see them in their full regalia. Guard Corporal Davies, a young soldier not much older than Emma's teenage cousins, became particularly close to her. He had lost his own younger sister to illness several years earlier, and Emma's courage reminded him of his sister's strength. "You fight like a warrior, Emma," he told her during one visit. "Your battle is different from ours, but your courage is the same." Emma's influence on the guards was profound and lasting. Many of them later said that meeting her had changed their understanding of what it meant to serve and protect. They had always been proud of their role, but Emma had shown them that true courage could come from the most unexpected places, from a small, sick child who chose hope over despair. The guards began incorporating Emma's story into their training talks with new recruits. "Courage isn't just about facing danger in battle," Sergeant Major Williams would tell newcomers. "It's about facing each day with dignity when you know your days are numbered. It's about maintaining hope when hope seems impossible." Honorary Guard Thompson taught us that. As the date for the royal audience approached, Emma's condition began to show more signs of her illness. She was weaker, needed more rest, and had lost more weight. But her spirit remained strong, bolstered by the daily contact with her adopted military family and the anticipation of meeting the Queen. Dr. Williams privately worried that the excitement and activity might be too much for Emma's failing body, but he also recognized that these experiences were giving her a quality of life that medical treatment alone could never provide. "She's living more fully now than she has in months," he told her parents. "That might be more important than a few extra days of mere survival." The night before the royal audience, Emma carefully laid out her guard uniform, polished her miniature, medals, and practiced her formal greeting one last time. She had prepared a small speech to give to the Queen, thanking her not just for the audience, but for having such wonderful guards to protect the realm. "Tomorrow I meet the Queen," she wrote in the diary she had started keeping since the ceremony. "I'm not scared. The guards taught me that being brave doesn't mean not being afraid. It means doing important things even when you are afraid. Meeting the Queen is important, so I will be brave." As her parents tucked her into bed that night, Emma looked up at them with eyes that still held all the wonder and hope that had carried her through her illness. "Mummy, Daddy," she said softly, "even if I die tomorrow, I've had the most wonderful adventure. The guards made me feel like I matter, like my life meant something special." The morning of the royal audience dawned clear and bright. Emma woke early despite her exhaustion, and immediately asked to be helped into her honorary guard uniform. Her parents had never seen her take such care with her appearance. She insisted on having every button properly fastened, every medal positioned correctly, and her miniature bearskin hat set at precisely the right angle. The journey to Buckingham Palace was made in a special car provided by the palace staff, equipped with medical equipment and accompanied by Dr. Williams. As they drove through the palace gates, Emma pressed her face to the window, taking in every detail of the imposing building she had seen in countless photographs. "The guards who work here every day must feel so proud," she whispered to her mother. "This is the most important place they protect." Even in her weakness, Emma's focus remained on honoring and understanding the role of the guards, rather than on the magnitude of her own situation. Inside the palace, they were greeted by the Queen's private secretary, who was clearly moved by the sight of Emma in her carefully worn uniform. "Her Majesty is very much looking forward to meeting you, Honorary Guard Thompson," he said formally, treating Emma with the same respect he would show any visiting dignitary. As they walked through the palace corridors, Emma's eyes were wide, with wonder at the paintings, the furniture, and the atmosphere of history that surrounded them. But what impressed her most were the guards they passed, each one standing at perfect attention. "They're protecting the Queen right now," she said in an awed whisper. just like they've been doing for hundreds of years? The audience chamber was intimate rather than overwhelming, designed to put visitors at ease. When the doors opened and the Queen entered, Emma performed her practiced curtsy with as much grace as her weak body would allow. The Queen, known for her composure in all situations, was visibly touched by the sight of this small, dignified child in her honorary uniform. "Honorary Guard Thompson," the Queen said warmly, "it is my pleasure to meet such a distinguished member of my guards. I have heard remarkable things about your courage and your dedication to understanding the important work my guards do." Emma had prepared a formal speech, but standing before the Queen, she found herself speaking from her heart instead. "Your Majesty, thank you for having such wonderful guards. They taught me that being brave isn't about not being scared. It's about doing what's right even when you are scared. They made me feel like I could be brave too." The Queen listened intently, her expression showing genuine interest and respect for Emma's words. "My dear," she replied, "you have taught my guards as much as they have taught you. True courage, as you have discovered, comes from within. It cannot be learned from training or inherited from tradition. It must come from the heart, as yours has." During their conversation, Emma presented the Queen with her special drawing. The Queen studied it carefully, noting every detail Emma had included. "This is extraordinary," she said. "You've captured not just how my guards look, but who they are: protectors, servants, and honorable men. This will have a place of honor in my private collection." What happened next would become part of palace legend. The Queen asked Emma about her drawings, her dreams, and her understanding of duty and service. Emma's answers, delivered with the sincerity only a child could possess, were so profound that they moved everyone present. She spoke about how the guards had shown her that everyone has a role to play, even if they're sick or small or different. "I may not be able to stand guard at your palace," Emma told the Queen, "but I can guard the memory of kindness I've received. I can make sure other people remember that there are still heroes in the world, people who choose to serve others even when no one is watching." The Queen was so impressed by Emma's maturity and insight that she made an unprecedented decision. She awarded Emma the Royal Victorian Medal for her courage and her service to the morale of her guards. The medal, typically reserved for those who have served the royal family directly, was presented to Emma with full ceremony. "This medal recognizes exceptional service to the crown," the Queen explained, as she placed it around Emma's neck. "Your courage has served not just my guards, but everyone who has heard your story. You have reminded us all of what true bravery looks like." As the formal audience concluded, the Queen made another extraordinary gesture. She invited Emma to observe the changing of the guard ceremony from the palace balcony, giving her a perspective no member of the public had ever experienced. From this vantage point, Emma could see the precision and pageantry of the ceremony while understanding the deeper meaning behind each movement. Standing on the palace balcony in her honorary uniform, wearing the Royal Victorian Medal, Emma watched her guards perform their ancient ceremony. The thousands of tourists below had no idea that the small figure on the balcony was an 8-year-old girl who had inspired these elite soldiers to rediscover the true meaning of their service. After the ceremony, Sergeant Major Williams and several of the guards who had participated in Emma's original ceremony were brought to meet her in the palace. The reunion was emotional for everyone involved. These hardened soldiers, who had learned to control their emotions in all circumstances, were openly moved by seeing Emma in her place of honor at the palace. "Honorary Guard Thompson," Sergeant Major Williams said formally. "Seeing you here, honored by Her Majesty, makes us all proud to serve alongside you. You've shown us that courage takes many forms, and yours is the purest we've ever witnessed." The visit to the palace had lasted several hours, much longer than originally planned. Emma's energy had held throughout the entire experience, sustained by the extraordinary nature of what was happening. But as they prepared to leave, her parents could see that she was beginning to fade. The excitement and emotion had taken their toll on her weakening body. Dr. Williams was concerned about Emma's vital signs, but Emma insisted on saying proper goodbyes to each guard individually. She thanked them not just for their kindness to her but for their service to the country. Keep protecting people, she told each one. Keep being brave for all of us who can't. As their car left Buckingham Palace, Emma sat quietly, clutching her Royal Victorian medal and looking back at the building where she had experienced something beyond her wildest dreams. "Mummy," she said softly, "I think this might be the best day anyone has ever had." But the impact of Emma's palace visit was just beginning. News of the Queen's unprecedented decision to award the Royal Victorian Medal to a terminally ill child spread quickly through media outlets worldwide. Emma's story was no longer just about a sick child's wish coming true. It had become a symbol of how courage and kindness could create extraordinary moments of human connection. Letters began pouring into the hospital from around the world. Children drew pictures of Emma in her guard uniform. Adults wrote about how her story had inspired them to be braver in their own lives, and military personnel from many countries sent messages of respect and admiration. The royal guards themselves were profoundly changed by their experience with Emma. Many later said that meeting her had redefined their understanding of honor and service. They had seen courage in its purest form, untainted by training or expectation, and it had made them better soldiers and better men. The weeks following Emma's royal audience brought a peace to the Thompson family that they had not experienced since her diagnosis. Emma's condition continued to decline physically, but her spirit remained remarkably strong. She wore her royal Victorian medal every day, often touching it gently when she felt scared or tired. The medal had become more than an honor. It was a tangible reminder that her life had mattered, that she had made a difference in the world. Back in their small Yorkshire town, Emma had become a local hero. The primary school created a permanent display featuring her drawings of the royal guards, alongside photographs from her ceremony and palace visit. Children who had never met Emma would stop to look at the display, asking their teachers about the brave girl who had met the Queen. The correspondence with the guards continued, though Emma's responses became shorter as writing became more difficult. For her, each letter from London was treasured, read aloud by her parents when Emma was too weak to read them herself. The guards had become like distant family members, checking on her progress and sharing stories from their daily duties. Sergeant Major Williams established a special tradition in Emma's honor. Each week during the guards' training sessions, he would read portions of Emma's letters aloud to new recruits. "This is what we protect," he would tell them. "This courage, this hope, this determination to find joy even in the darkest circumstances. Remember Honorary Guard Thompson when you wonder why our service matters." 3 months after the palace visit, Emma's doctor delivered the news her parents had been dreading but expecting.
Emma had days, perhaps a week left. Her body was finally surrendering to the disease it had fought so valiantly. But even as Dr. Williams spoke, Emma surprised everyone with her response. "That's okay," she said quietly, her small hand reaching
for her medal. "I've had the most wonderful adventure. I met the Queen, I became a real guard, and I made friends with heroes. Not many people get to do all that in their whole lives, and I got to do it in 8 years." Word of Emma's deteriorating condition reached London quickly through the network of people who had become invested in her story. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Lieutenant Colonel Mitchell called personally to speak with Emma, though by then she was too weak for long conversations. "Honorary Guard Thompson," he said formally during their brief call, "I want you to know that your service has been exemplary. The guards speak of you every day. You've become part of our regiment's history, and your courage will inspire guards for generations to come." The most remarkable response came from an unexpected source. The Queen's private secretary contacted the Thompson family with a message from Her Majesty herself. The Queen had asked that Emma be told she would be remembered in the royal family's private prayers, and that her medal would be displayed in a place of honor at the palace after her passing, inspiring future visitors with her story. As Emma's final days approached, the small hospital room where she spent most of her time became a place of pilgrimage for those whose lives she had touched. Her primary school classmates created a massive card, signed by every student and teacher. Local businesses sent flowers and gifts. Strangers who had read about her story drove from across the country just to stand outside the hospital and pay their respects. But the most meaningful visitors were her guards. In an unprecedented gesture, a delegation of royal guards received special permission to travel to Yorkshire in their ceremonial uniforms. Sergeant Major Williams, Corporal Davies, and 4 other guards who had participated in Emma's ceremony made the journey to say goodbye. Emma was deeply moved but not surprised by their visit. "I knew you would come," she whispered to Sergeant Major Williams. "Real friends always come when you need them most." Despite her weakness, she insisted on sitting up properly to receive her fellow guards, maintaining the dignity and military bearing she had learned from them. The guards had brought something special, a flag that had flown over Buckingham Palace, signed by every member of the regiment. "This is for you, Honorary Guard Thompson," Sergeant Major Williams said, his voice thick with emotion. "So you'll always know that you served with the best of us." Emma's parents watched in amazement as their dying daughter conducted what could only be described as a military farewell with these elite soldiers. She thanked each guard individually, recalled specific moments from their ceremony, and even managed to joke about hoping they would continue to stand up straight without her there to inspect them. The guards maintained their composure during the visit, but several were seen wiping tears from their eyes as they left the hospital. Corporal Davies, who had become particularly attached to Emma, said later that leaving her that day was one of the most difficult things he had ever done in his military career. Emma passed away peacefully 2 days later, surrounded by her family and holding her Royal Victorian Medal. Her final words were about the guards. "Tell them I'll keep watching over them, just like they watched over me." The funeral was extraordinary. The church in their small Yorkshire town was filled to capacity with people from all walks of life who had been touched by Emma's story. Representatives from the Royal Guard served as honorary pallbearers, their ceremonial uniforms adding dignity and honor to the service. The Queen sent a personal wreath with a card that read simply, "For Honorary Guard Thompson, whose courage inspired us all. Elizabeth R." The sight of the royal wreath alongside flowers from school children and strangers created a powerful symbol of how Emma had bridged different worlds through her simple courage. Sergeant Major Williams delivered a eulogy that would be remembered by everyone present. "Emma Thompson was 8 years old," he said, "but she taught career soldiers lessons about courage that we had never learned in all our years of training. She showed us that true bravery isn't about facing bullets or standing guard in the rain. It's about facing each day with hope when hope seems impossible." The impact of Emma's life continued long after her death. The Royal Guards established the Emma Thompson Courage Award, given annually to individuals who demonstrate exceptional bravery in the face of adversity. The first recipient was a young soldier who had overcome significant disabilities to serve in the regiment. Her drawings were compiled into a book with proceeds going to children's cancer research. The book became a bestseller, introducing Emma's story to millions of readers around the world. Schools began using her story to teach children about courage, kindness, and the importance of pursuing their dreams, regardless of obstacles. 5 years after Emma's death, a memorial garden was established at the Children's Hospital where she had spent so much of her final years. At its center stands a statue of a small figure in a guard's uniform, looking up with hope and determination. The inscription reads, "Honorary Guard Emma Thompson. She showed us that courage comes in many forms." The Royal Guards still speak of Emma during their training sessions. New recruits learn about the little girl who became one of them, who taught them that their role was not just about ceremony and tradition, but about protecting and inspiring the courage that exists in ordinary people facing extraordinary challenges. Her parents, David and Sarah, found their grief transformed by the knowledge that their daughter's brief life had touched so many others. They established a foundation that grants wishes to terminally ill children, always emphasizing that no dream is too big or too impossible to pursue. The guards who knew Emma personally carried her influence throughout their careers. Many became mentors to young people, sharing Emma's lessons about courage and determination. Sergeant Major Williams often said that in 40 years of military service, no one had taught him more about true honor than an 8-year-old girl with cancer. Emma, Thompson's final wish to see the Royal Guards had become something far greater than anyone could have imagined. It had created a legacy of kindness that rippled outward, touching thousands of lives and reminding people everywhere that courage, hope, and human connection can triumph over even the darkest circumstances. Her story proved that sometimes the smallest person can cast the largest shadow, and that true bravery lies not in the absence of fear, but in the determination to keep loving, hoping, and believing despite it.